Alright, so what I wanted to do today was talk about Resident Evil 4 Remake as a whole. I think I haven't really done that yet. I haven't really kind of laid out what I think about the remake in general. I've kind of gone at points of it and leaks and stuff like that, but I've never really sat down and gone, okay, here's what I think of it, here's what it could be, here's what it couldn't be, and stuff like that. So I'm going to go through that today and just kind of give my general thoughts on it in general, and if it really did need that remake. As always, your thoughts are probably different to mine, so if you do feel differently to what I'm going to say, do let me know. It's always good to have the conversation in the comments, which we always do. So yeah, let's just get into it, shall we? So did Resident Evil 4 need a remake? Was it necessary to? Yes and no, okay? So there's things about Resident Evil 4 as it is that could benefit from a remake or a change, and there's also things in Resident Evil 4 at the moment that are memorable, and to tinker with it and to change it too much would be not a bad thing, but it definitely wouldn't, like, there wouldn't be a point to it, really. So I guess we'll start with what they should change with Resident Evil 4, just to kind of give it a more modern feel, I suppose. First and foremost, to me, is the story. The story is good, okay? The Resident Evil 4 story is fine, but it is a little bit over the top. It's a little bit extreme at times as well. So obviously the story is the president's daughter gets kidnapped, and Leon's first assignment is to go and find her alone. So that already does kind of feel a little bit unrealistic. I know it's a zombie game, but you know, it's still a bit out there. I think they're probably going to keep that as well. Maybe they'll go into why he's going alone, but you know, I think it's fine that it's there, but it is still a little bit over the top. But then again, a lot of Resident Evil plot lines are over the top. A lot of what the main characters do doesn't make any sense. Case in point, Ethan Winters in Resident Evil 7 hasn't heard from his wife in years. Gets a random email that she's in the house and to come and get her, and he goes by himself without any physical proof that she's alive. But again, flipping the coin on its head there, Leon is professional. What he knows what he's doing. He is now like a super Secret Service guy, and it's probably a bit more capable than average Joe Ethan Winters, but that topic is for a completely different video at some other point. But story-wise, I think there'll be changes. I think it will be at core, be the same story, the same main story, be it's going to go that Leon goes by himself to find her, and then it just escalates from there. Will there be alterations? Probably. Again, the tone's different, so it's probably going to be altered in some fashion. And obviously they did mention that the story is slightly different while keeping it feeling the same, so there's probably going to be some kind of different twist or something like that. Characters are all probably still going to be there, so Krauser will probably still be there. I know there's a lot of concern with him not being in the game, but I'm pretty sure he will be. And obviously you've got Sadler as the main villain, we know that from the trailer. Wesker did appear in original 4, I'd imagine we'll see him again. Ada is in it, Luis is in it, and I'd imagine that Salazar is going to be in it as well. So I think all the main characters are going to be there still, but they'll probably be altered enough to make it more realistic. To be honest, the bit that gets me the most when I talk about realism in the remake is the castle. I think out of all of the game, the castle is like the biggest what the fuck is going on here in the entire game. Like, it is completely bonkers. So I really do think the castle will see the most changes, but we'll have to wait and see, because they might not. But I really do think that if they want to keep a serious tone and keep it a bit more gritty, a bit more dark, the castle will be the bit that gets the most changes, I think. So gameplay wise, this one's an interesting one. This one is always up for debate. Like, I think, and I think a lot of people think, Resident Evil 4, as it is right now, still plays really, really well. It was really like ahead of its time for when it came out. Like, yes, it's still got that tank controls gameplay, but it doesn't take long to get used to it. Like, for example, a friend of mine and me played for Resident Evil 5, which has these same controls, for the first time ever. Like, he played it for his first time ever, and yeah, at first he was like, okay, the controls are a bit weird, but you know, an hour in, maybe 2 hours in, it wasn't really an issue. Like, the controls were kind of sinking in at that point, and it was kind of smooth. But at the same time, I think you have to look at the games as they are right now. So Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil Village 2 and 3 remakes, I've pulled in a lot of sales, and a lot of new people have kind of jumped onto their series because of those games. And I think changing the controls to fit the remakes is probably the best move, because keeping the controls the same would be an interesting one. I do think it would be cool if there was an option to play it as it was before, just with the new graphics and stuff like that. But it does make sense that the controls are being changed because it's more modern, a bit more responsive. I'm sure the AI and things around you will be a bit more responsive as well, so you need to be able to move a bit faster. And with the pursuer type being there, I think tank controls might make that a bit of a struggle. Because obviously it was there in the old games, and it was a bit of an issue. It made them difficult to deal with at times. So having those tank controls in a new game with a new pursuer type is going to be quite difficult to deal with. QTEs are an interesting one as well. There's a lot of them in Resident Evil 4 and 5 and 6. The games are full of them, and that is again a thing of its time. So many games had QTEs at that time it was just everywhere, and I think it would be cool if they kept some of them in. I personally think the Krauser knife cutscene, that should stay and should be exactly how it is, just with modern graphics. That would be really, really cool. But in terms of other ones like running away from boulders and stuff like that, I don't think they'll be there. The kick is one that people are talking about a lot. The roundhouse. It's an interesting one because some people are talking about the remake. Some people did think that was a bit dumb, but again, it's part of the game now. It's like part of the game's charm. So I think getting rid of it would be dicey. I don't think people will really appreciate it. But at the same time, again, keeping the game more serious, you don't want someone roundhouse kicking a bunch of zombies, do you? So who knows? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I hope they do keep it in, but that's just me. I think with the remake, they really need to balance some of the old stuff and some of the new stuff. A lot of what happens in Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake is very similar, but it's more modernized than kept the same. So with 4, again, high stakes, big game, everyone knows it. Mix the two perfectly. I think Resident Evil 2 did that the closest with its remake, but with this one, keep some of that old stuff in because people want to see it, but then at the same time, add some new stuff so that people are surprised and maybe appreciate that new stuff as well as the old stuff still being there. In fact, one of the things, gameplay-wise, mechanics-wise, I really, really, really hope stays the same is the attach case system from 4. It's in Village, it is in Village, but it's not as good in Village. It's very basic in Village. It's literally just square icons for everything. So it's like rectangle icons for ammo, big squares or big long rectangles for big weapons or small weapons, and no variation. But in 4, the attach case was kind of a grid like it is now, but each weapon was like in its shape. Like the pistol would literally look like a pistol when you sat in there. It would be like an L shape in your box. Shotguns also a bit longer, had like the grip on it, so it kind of overlapped a couple other spaces as well. So you have to really organise it in a way that it would actually fit. So yeah, I would say keep that the same. That was actually a massive letdown in Village, that the attach case system was changed to that degree. I would much rather have been the same, but again, that's just me. But in terms of the gameplay, I'm sure, you know, it'll feel very similar to 2 and 3 Remake, probably. Hopefully with a bit of a twist on it for Resident Evil 4. Obviously the game's a lot less restrictive in terms of where you can go and what you can do, especially in fighting arenas, so it's a lot more freedom. So I'm sure it will feel a lot more, you know, active, I should say, than the Resident Evil 2 and 3, where you have more space, you have more mobility, and you can probably do a bit more as well. So it's probably going to be fine in the gameplay aspect. But again, a classic option would be pretty cool, especially for people who have played the original so much and really like that system. It would be interesting to see what the remake plays with that classic system in the game. Speaking of, I guess, controls and perspectives and stuff like that, there is talk about a first-person mode being in the game at launch. Obviously, if you're aware, Village's DLC has a third-person option, and people are thinking, because, again, 7 and 8 did bring in a lot of people, and there are people out there that really do like the first-person perspective in an RE game, that they could maybe give you the option of playing in first or third for 4. I personally don't want that. I would rather just have it in third person like it was before, and then maybe the option to have the old controls and the old kind of movement. But it's possible. It is possible. And then finally, briefly touching on the tone of the game. Again, they've gone for a more dark, more gritty, more serious tone for the game, or keeping the story intact. Again, it goes back to what I said earlier with keeping it a perfect blend of the old stuff and the new stuff. So the old game has a lot of cheesy one-liners and cheesy moments. I'm not saying keep all of them in, but keep some of the bigger ones in. Like, again, people are going to remember that stuff. And when you get to a certain part of the game where that thing happened and it doesn't, it might throw people a little bit. So, again, keep it mixed in with the new stuff. I'm sure you'll probably receive a good reception from most people. But yeah, to sum up really, do I think the game needed the remake? Again, I'm still on the fence. I'm very 50-50 on the whole thing. In some aspects, like I said, yes it did, but in some aspects, it really didn't. There are other games in the series that need a remake more than that, but it makes sense that 4 would be next. Maybe after 4 we'll see one of those games that's in dire need of it happen, but until then, we are stuck with this. Not a complaint, I cannot wait to play the game, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are very excited as well. So do let me know what you think about the whole did it need a remake kind of conversation. Thank you all for watching. Remember to subscribe for more Resident Evil content, and I'll catch you all tomorrow for another video.